Welcome to 5 Strike Weekly, everyone. This week we break down that fantastically ugly win at Yankee Stadium, and we preview that second leg fixture against NYCFC at the Benz this Sunday. All that and more coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Strike fam. I'm AJ, this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube, or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. So guys, let's get into the gritty result where Tata employed the perfect tactics, and he was under a lot of scrutiny this week, but I think he did exceptionally well. And especially, early in the week, he was a little coy about what we were going to do. He was pretty much saying, oh, we're going to play the exact same way as we usually do. And if, he was prompted by a question of, are we going to practice on a pitch that's as small as Yankee Stadium? He was like, no, and it was very interesting because I think they probably did something of the sort in terms of, playing different, as we can tell pretty obviously that, where a lot of our connected passes and, all that, they weren't there. And, our beautiful play wasn't there, but it was, I think, something that, something of a tactical masterclass for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we questioned last week if he had a plan B, and I think a lot of the problems that people have thrown at him has been he lacks a plan B. But Atlanta United showed that they can play a different way in this game. I was very impressed with how solid defensively they were. I mean, they didn't give up a shot on target, I believe, all match to NYCFC, which just hasn't happened to them at all this season. Their previous low was 2. Yeah. I mean, they gave nothing up. I'm not really a fan of Lorenowitz playing on the right side of a back three, but that being said, with a pitch this small, especially when Atlanta sat off NYCFC a bit more in the second half, he deployed Gressel in midfield and really packed the center of the park, which I thought was a great idea in this match because the pitch is so tiny it forces them to play wide. When they got into those wide areas, there still wasn't a lot, and they were crossing it into a box with loads of bodies, tall players who could head the ball away. I thought Atlanta did really well, and like you said, Tata absolutely got his tactics spot on in this game, which helped Atlanta secure a 1-0 result that was absolutely vital for them moving into the second leg at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right, and the starting 11 definitely was a bit of a surprise, as most of us expected Miguel Miron to start from the bench, but to pretty much bring him on for 45 minutes, and it seems like that was on purpose. They haven't practiced yet this week. We're filming this on a Monday, and so we don't know yet if that, if there was an injury or whatnot, but it seems like that was on purpose, and just to give him a run out, and man, did we look good with him on the pitch. But yeah, Miggy got a start, Lorenowitz came back in, and Garza got his first start in what seems like forever, in 3 or 4 months. And so, I mean, pretty much, a lot of that back line looked hella good. And I mean, I think Miggy really changed the game when he was in it. He, he had that foothold in the game. He was in control. He had the goal that was taken away, which we'll talk about later. But I think, yeah, he deserved the plaudits for that first half, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thought Atlanta United came out. I kind of talked about it in our preview last week, how I said I wanted to see them come out and press NYCFC because it was a small pitch, take it to them, see if you could force them to make a mistake. And I think that's something Atlanta did very well in the first half because they were up against NYCFC, forcing them back in their face, pressing them high up the pitch, and Miguel Almiron was absolutely crucial to that happening. He was all over the place, and NYCFC could not contain him. I think a lot of the first half, Atlanta played some really good stuff. We did connect some passes here and there, but a lot of that match was dominated by individual player quality. Darlington Nagbe was running circles around players. They could not get him off the ball unless they fouled him. Same thing with Miguel Almiron. We found a lot of joy clearing the ball to the flanks and getting that space out wide and then attacking NYCFC. There were some very good goal-scoring opportunities there in the first half. Escobar missed a sitter somehow. I have no idea. I think something else that we really need to touch on that we've slated Tata Martino is Atlanta United has been useless on set-piece opportunities. Yeah. And we absolutely devastated NYCFC all match. I mean, the goal came as a result of a set-piece. Right. The disallowed goal came as a result of a set-piece.
We peppered their goal from set-pieces in this match.
It was something I hadn't seen before from Atlanta. They were creative. There were balls getting swung in at pace. I mean, even later in the match, when Ezequiel Barco came on, he had a free kick from the left-hand side that no one could get ahead to, but it was a fantastic ball. It was whipped, great delivery to the back post that if anyone got anything on, could have resulted in a second goal. So there were things that we've criticized Tata Martino for that he got spot on, and we saw those changes in the team this game. I wasn't very optimistic going into it. I thought we might lose 2-1, but
Right.
I mean,
I'm super glad you're wrong.
I was super glad I'm wrong, because if this is an Atlanta United that we can see, and this is what they want to play in the playoffs, especially when they have to be defensively compact, to be able to change your tactics midway through a match, adapt, decide, okay, now we have this lead, we're going to sit off, we're going to let them come to us. I mean, if you had a fit Tito Villalba out there, you may have definitely gotten a second goal in the second half.
Yeah, I think
but,
so, yeah.
I mean, that aside, yeah, I mean, it was an incredible performance from the Five Stripes.
Definitely. And I think we look like a Stoke City, if you will. You know, we're doing all the dirty things, all the you know, the gritty things that you need to do to win a match. And you know, you get your goal, you sit back.
I'd say almost more of an Atletico Madrid. Let's not compare ourselves to Stoke City.
Yeah.
Let's not give ourselves that little credit.
That's a low bar, but I mean, you know, so I think Atletico Madrid, they've won things, so that's probably a better.
Well, Men in Blazers actually compared us to Bournemouth today. Fun fact.
Oh,
they said when they were doing their highlights today after the Premier League match this afternoon, they were like the Atlanta United of the Premier League, and then talking about Bournemouth, which is not actually a bad thing, because Bournemouth are playing really, really well with a very high attacking system. But I think, you know, it was very interesting, and I thought it was brilliant. It was something we were crying out for them to do, because it might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but it was effective, because there were multiple times where NYCFC got caught out by that long ball over the top, because we have players across the pitch with the ability to play that ball. And I think that's going to be a vital, vital attribute in this coming second leg, which we'll talk about when we break that match down. But having that out ball there forced NYCFC to be aware of it constantly. And I think had Atlanta United been a little more clinical, this fixture could already be put aside, because they could have gotten a second or even a third goal.
Right, that's true. But, you know, this is not to say that it was not chippy, that it was not, you know, there were a lot of fouls. There were 22 fouls in the first half. 38 total in the match. It's kind of unprecedented numbers, actually. And so, you know, yeah, it's a type of match that, you know, it's not fun to watch per se. It's very ugly.
Stressful at times.
Stressful, especially, you know, with a one-goal lead. But I think it's something that we were yearning to see, like we've said. But I think NYCFC, they were kind of caught on their heels a little bit with their tactics. And what's going to be interesting to see is if we can continue to do this throughout the playoffs. Now that, you know, the teams will kind of know that it's in our locker, but, you know, how they can quickly adjust to it, and how we can, you know, switch tactics on a dime, that would be interesting to see in future matches.
Yeah, I think it'll be determined by who Atlanta United are playing, because if you play at Columbus, they'll set off. If you play at a New York Red Bull, you'll definitely be employing kind of the tactics we saw yesterday against City. I think something that is interesting when you talked about all the fouls, the referee, you know, we'll get into the offside call here in a little bit, but I thought he had a very interesting game. He had a lot of fouls called, which I understood there were a lot of fouls. He also let probably 10 to 15 fouls go. Some of the bookings he handed out, I questioned. I thought Tito's was absolutely useless, and somehow
didn't even make contact. So
Herrera skipped a booking a couple times, and he definitely should have been put away.
Villa probably should have been off.
Villa definitely could have seen red. I mean, it really depends on your interpretation of the rule, but for me, being a Man United fan, I'm so salty about Nani seeing red for playing the ball in 2013 against Real Madrid, and he played the ball. Yeah. Villa studded Garza in the back. Yeah. So I really don't know how that wasn't reviewed. He loves a high boot. I don't know.
He probably gets the benefit of being David Villa,
whatever, wanker. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that City could have had a few more players booked. At the end of the first half, I tweeted that if this match ends 11v11, I'd be shocked. And it did. I have no idea how. Atlanta United players kept their cool for the most part, which I thought was very impressive, because there were some tackles. Don't get me wrong, Atlanta had some as well, but City had some very much ankle breaker, dirty tackles that I was not a fan of.
I think LGP, there was a foul on him, I think, from Herrera. He could have been sent off. I mean, when it's on the ankle that high,
yeah,
I think by the letter of the law, you
definitely could see that. I mean, mind you, he also LGP got away with throwing the one dude to the floor and then jumping into the other guy in the second half. But I don't care, because it's going to go both ways. It's what you love LGP for. He's a very canny operator and knows how to put himself about.
Right.
But yeah, I think really the next only main thing we can talk about is that offside goal.
Yeah, I think so. But I think a quick you know, stat to throw at the people is that, you know, Atlanta United, after a loss, are 6-0-1, and you know, that's really, really, like resilient numbers for sure.
We lose, we win the next game.
Exactly, and then we go on a slight run, I think. And so, I think something of that was a wake-up call after Toronto, and maybe we can, use this as that real wake-up call that, hey, we can't let that happen again. And I think Tata changing the tactics is a huge sign of that, so it's good. But yeah, I think let's get into that offside goal. So Miggy and Gressel are on the right for a short corner, and Miggy plays it to Gressel, who lets Miggy cross it in. It bounces around, and on the left, Remedi crosses it in for Miggy, who chops it into the ground and chips Johnson, and it luckily hits the back of the net. But all the while, the call gets a VAR call, so it's not as rosy as it seems, but it's something that I think is ultimately right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the beginning, I was really confused. When the ball first got played, I saw the NYCFC step, and I thought quickly maybe Miggy was offside, just because I've played a lot of FIFA, I've watched a lot of football, and sometimes that can happen when you run a short corner routine, so it's always something you're looking for. But once, Miggy crosses the ball in and it bounces around the box and he gets it back and bounces into the ground and hits the back of the net, that's all out of my mind. I'm thinking, absolutely yes, we're 1-0 up, we deserve this. Let's go. This is exactly what we needed.
Because we've been on the front foot. And
absolutely. The goal was deserved. It was with the run of play. I thought Atlanta thoroughly deserved their lead. And then, yeah, you see the rep. You see Sean Johnson with his hand to his ear. Like, what's going on? Trying to get him to VAR it. You see the rep with his hand to his ear. And it's like, well, what's going on? And then TV didn't do us any favors at all with the replay.
I think that's my main bone to pick here, is that the broadcast pretty much had no idea what was going on, and I think several of the broadcasts apparently had that same issue where, I mean, they were focusing on Loretowitz with maybe interference on Johnson.
I would have lost my mind if that was the call as well, because there was absolutely no interference.
There's nothing in it really
whatsoever. I mean, he moves out of the way, and I was like, that can't be the call. So I was realizing very quickly, for me, I was like, that cannot be what they're calling, because that's so obvious that not even VAR can get something like that wrong. And also, to be fair, this is the second time in a row in 2 weeks where you've seen a problem with VAR, because also in the offside, they kept, last week against Toronto, they kept showing Gressel, and it's like, Gressel was not the one offside. It was in the buildup. And once again, that was the case here, where the broadcast can't get their stuff together and they're showing the wrong thing.
Well, and maybe it's not just the broadcast's fault. Maybe it's someone on the field that needs to communicate with all the broadcasts. Maybe just a announcement like, okay, this is what the VAR is looking at, because I think at the World Cup there wasn't really any issues like this where they were looking at the wrong thing on the broadcast, and VAR is looking at something different. Like, I mean, VAR by all accounts was really, really well run.
I still don't know why we just didn't adopt pretty much all the rules of how VAR is. Mind you, they had a central command center and everything, and they had a lot more people looking at it very quickly, getting back to the official. But yeah, I mean, once it was shown, and it was Miguel Almiron offside in the build-up. He was offside.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close. From an offside position where the defender was not on the post anymore. Yes. And so once he's moved up because he saw that it was played short to Gressel, I mean, yeah, it
was well done by NYCFC to step their line like that. A lot of times you'll still have people sitting on the post, but in a short corner scenario like that, when it's played back, that's very well done defensively on their part, and it was the right call.
Yeah, it ultimately was the right call, so I completely agree.
I think justice in the end got done because you had Eric Remedi scoring his first ever goal from about as close as you can get with it out being already in the net, and he needed 2 touches.
Yeah, he needed 2 touches to do it, but so going from the it's a set piece again, and Joseph on the volley, he smashes
absolutely catches it as cleanly as you can with his left foot, mind you.
Yeah, with his left foot, and Johnson, all credit to him for a really, really good save at first.
Coming through bodies, I mean, that's a tough one to see and get down on.
Yeah, so he gets a little unlucky that he only parries it, a couple feet in front of him, and Remedi just pounces on it quickly. Yeah, he does need a couple of touches to get it in. He almost, he bungles it home for sure. Like, he hits the post first.
He shinned it off the post in.
Yeah. But he finally gets it in with that second touch, and he's now our leading playoff scorer with 1. So Eric Remedi, you are a legend. But yeah, I mean, I think with that goal, it was really all that we needed. It was the 37th minute, so we had to make sure that NYCFC did not score at the half, and my God, they had a corner right before the half was going to end.
Free header and the whole nonsense.
Yeah, it was nervous times, but I think the second half was a lot more reassuring for sure, I think. And, you know, they had their chances, but it seemed a little bit more controlled, even though Miggy was off the field. Like, you could tell that with our five-man back line, essentially, they were just there to defend everything, and they snuffed out every single chance pretty much. I mean, and we had the better chances in the second half. I mean, Garza with that.
That was a fantastic shot from Garza. You had the Joseph and the
Johnson
Tito.
almost, he parries it away. But yeah, I mean, there were more chances from us. I think that were
they were clear cut at least.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, we packed the middle of the park, which is they'd like to play through there, but you snuff out Villa. But you don't give them those chances to get the space to create through the middle of the pitch because there's too many bodies there. And then they got them out wide, and the fullbacks did a great job of defending, and everyone else did a great job of tracking back to where they weren't allowed that space. They had a couple opportunities, but no clear-cut chances. And I think at the end of the day, it was a deserved result for Atlanta United because Atlanta, if you wanted to get super nerdy, probably the expected goals probably favored Atlanta to have more than just the one. Escobar missed an absolute sitter from 2-3 yards out, which all he has to do is hit it straight, and somehow he wraps his foot around it and hits it wide. I have no idea how that was even possible for a professional footballer, but he did it.
Yeah, he
don't care, mind you, because he had a great game.
He did. He had a fantastic game. But yeah, I think maybe if he did one of those Larry things where
just chest it in,
or stomach it in,
whatever. As long as you don't use your arms, as long as it goes in. But I mean, I thought Atlanta, you know, they created the most clear-cut chances. They defended well throughout. They deserved the result, and they bring back that 1-0 lead for a second leg here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this weekend.
And you know, it again wasn't the prettiest type of match, and you know, 61% pass accuracy kind of defines that. I mean,
there's a lot of long balls.
Lots of long balls, and long balls don't bring a lot of accuracy in that regard.
But sometimes in a two-legged tie, though, it's not always the prettiest football that wins, which is why you see a team to bring them back again, like an Atletico Madrid, who might not be as talented and might not play the prettiest stuff at times. They have talented players, and they can create chances.
But they are efficient.
But they are efficient. And when you play two legs, you don't always have to play the prettiest football. You have to be efficient, control the games, take your chances when you can, and not concede. And that's what Atlanta, especially on the road. And that's what Atlanta United did, and now they put themselves in a fantastic position to go through to the next round if they can secure a decent result, which shouldn't be difficult. But which we'll dig into that when we get to the breakdown of the second leg. They've put themselves in a great position, and that's all you can ask with the first leg being away from home.
Right. So I think the only thing left to ask is who's the man of the match for you?
That's tough. I mean, for me, it's tough. It was an all-around team performance, and for me to really dig one out, I mean, Remedi got the goal. I thought he did a decent job. I have to praise Escobar. He covered a lot of ground, made a lot of runs, played really good defense, won a lot of duels. But also LGP was just incredibly efficient at the back, cleaning things up, putting himself about, making tackles. I don't know. If I had to pick one, honestly, I'd probably have to go Escobar. I mean, he did really good work on the right-hand side, and I have panned him multiple times throughout the season, but I thought he played very, very well and took care of his task pretty good. He even had one acrobatic clearance that got called back for a foul, and I felt bad for him on that, but the ref kind of had to call it after disallowing that goal for NYCFC off of David Villa overhead kick, which if you want to comment on that, by the way, I absolutely agree with that call. It was dangerous play because Joseph's head was right there. And I get that sometimes it's like, well, how can you do a bicycle kick and have it not be dangerous play? Well, not have someone jumping for the ball right at your foot when it's happening.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, yeah, Joseph knew what he was doing there. He was very brave to try to go in and prevent that from connecting. And, you know, David Villa, yeah, he has every right to go for it as well as Joseph. And so, you know, I think that's a 50-50 ball. And because Villa, he did have a look over and he saw that Joseph was coming.
It's a raised boot. It's a dangerous play, so it was the right call. But yeah, for me, if pressed, I'd go with Escobar.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, yeah, especially it was kind of set up well for him as well. I think if Gressel was out there, it would probably, you know, been suited for his game as well because, yeah, Escobar was bombing forward. It was, I agree with you. I mean, he had that a little bit more time on the wings to be able to impact the game. Because anybody in the midfield, unless you're Nagby, it's like you don't have very much time on the ball, and so your touch isn't perfect.
I think something else that suited him in that case was the fact that because the pitch was so small, whenever he bombed up, you had a central midfielder slide into place because you had three in the middle of the park to slide into that position and cover him when he went forward, which enabled him to have a little bit more freedom moving forward.
Right.
Because of that, he was able to press that, then drop back, and not have to worry about having a ball clipped over the back into a 1v1 scenario against Lorenowitz, which is what costs Atlanta United when that formation's played. So in that sense, the size of the pitch actually played to Atlanta United's advantage because it allowed him to be a bit more aggressive and really harry NYCFC down that side of the pitch.
Right. I think, again, anybody on that back line really could get a man of the match. I think the first one that pops to my head is LGP, I think, because, I mean, it's just, he was clearing, he was intercepting, blocking stuff, he winning duels. I mean, he was all over the pitch, and he set the tone early with that tackle that a lot of us, I think, were cheering for. And I think, though, I mean, really the whole back line probably deserved, men of the match. I mean, they were just so stout, and to hold NYCFC to 0 shots, I think that's what's most impressive.
Yeah.
0 shots on target. Yeah, that's what's most impressive. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of what was said after the match, I think it was very indicative of the game plan going in which Tata Martino and co were very coy about. But Tata Martino, on having to play differently in the playoffs on the road, he said it's just not because of the field, but it's also because of the circumstances of the game. So in a playoff game of 90 minutes or 2 legs of 180 minutes, the team who has the most success is the team that commits the fewest errors. So maybe today we weren't as strict trying to play out of the back, which is evident in that 61% pass accuracy, but yeah.
I mean, that's Tata admitting to being pragmatic, which is what we were calling out for and crying out for last week, and he did it, which is something that he hasn't done before. It's something that you haven't seen from him trying to do in a competition like this. So I'm impressed with him. It's good signs, especially going forward for the next round if you get there. But for the next leg as well, that if he has to change his tactics in the game, he's shown a willingness to do that. So that's very encouraging going forward. It's something maybe I would have liked to have seen over the course of the season, but if you're saving it for the postseason, I can't really complain.
Yeah, especially if they can pull it off that effectively, then absolutely, then no problem really then. But it's also, I mean, you have the critics of Tata Martino there are saying, oh, he's checked out, he's already on to his next job. I mean, I think this is evident that clearly he hasn't. He's still, very within this, all the mind games in between the matches in the game. So, I think that's good signs. Jeff Lorowitz had this to say on if the performances like this can win MLS Cup. It's just concentration for 90 minutes every week. We said it coming into today, no simple mistakes. No letting each other down, going back to the grit and determination that has gotten us here the last 2 years. If we can come with that same energy, then we'll be alright. But it's difficult. You can't think everything else will take care of itself. You have to concentrate on everything.
And I really agree with pretty much everything he had to say there. I mean, determination, great. We've been describing this win as gritty. I mean, they're focused, and that's what helps you have leaders like him, like Michael Parkhurst, who have been here before. They understand the MLS more so than the rest of these players, and they understand what it takes to win. And that's the leadership coming through and shining from those guys. And we've been asking if that would happen, especially with how poor the regular season finished. But he clearly has his mind on straight, and I think that mindset, you can see that throughout the rest of the team. I mean, yes, there was frustrating times for Joseph Martinez, but you could see him tracking back. He was focused. He knew that he had a job to do, and it wasn't just about scoring a goal. He knew what he had to do, which for me kind of lended myself to why I was so worried about seeing Tito come on, because he was struggling to get around the pitch, and you could tell that there's no way that he was just not out there trying to close the ball down and not trying to close the ball down and not cover that ground. Clearly something was wrong with him, but you can see that the entire team has that mindset of we want to focus, we want to win, we want to get this trophy, and you can see that determination, and hopefully that results in lifting the cup in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the case, but in the meantime we'll move on into the second leg. And so getting into the news after the match, Guzan is just a huge man-child, I think, in my eyes. He's very nimble for a big guy, 6'4". He's hopping around. He's just giving congratulatory hugs to everybody, like punches to the head with his big old mitt. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like to be able to see that type of celebration afterwards. I think you know, you don't often get that kind of behind the scenes afterwards.
I think for a keeper as well to keep a clean sheet in a game like that, where your team is
Exactly.
defended like that. I mean, he was organizing them all night, yelling at them, making sure everyone was in the right position, being switched on, being focused.
Yeah.
So I think he was very, very satisfied to have walked out of there with a result like that.
I mean, he looked like he was about to eat somebody. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing was is that was a very professional performance from Atlanta as far as like time wasting and taking all that time was concerned. And I think what was great about you know, Brad Usan is that he's played in the Premier League for teams like Villa and Middlesbrough, so he knows about wasting time. And every time, especially, well, most of them was the entire game, but especially in the second half, every ball in the air, he was catching it and going to the floor, waiting a few seconds, looking around, making sure everyone was up. I mean, it was thoroughly professional from him, making sure everything he did, organizing his defense. I felt like for once he felt at home in that match because it was so intense, and not saying the regular season's not, but it had a different feel that maybe kind of gets him going because that's what he's used to from playing in the Premier League and playing at the highest level of the sport, that maybe sometimes he's not always on that or not always switched on to that, even though he is always focused, don't get me wrong, but like this gives you that extra edge that maybe sometimes you don't have in, you know, a regular season type game.
For sure, for sure. And, you know, I think we've seen him celebrate kind of like this after some matches, but I think he was extra fired up after this match. So that's why it was kind of noteworthy to point it out. But I think at halftime, even more interesting is Tata. You know, we always knew he kind of spoke a few words of English, but for him to speak 2 full sentences of English, especially after having the translator right next to him and the reporter just asking him directly, and he answered directly. I think it was a big kind of maybe FU to the U.S. men's national team for maybe overlooking him as a candidate.
It wouldn't shock me the USMNT is a bunch of wankers. I said it, I'm American, I don't care, I don't watch them because they're run by morons, which is why we suck. But I digress. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I mean, there's so many things I love about Tata. I mean, I think
we will
miss him. His personality is fantastic, though. You cannot fault the guy. His personality is absolutely incredible, and he definitely knows how to stick some banter in there every once in a while.
Right. No, because, you know, the timing is very interesting in this, because he could have done this all season where he didn't need the translator, you know, but when U.S. men's national team pretty much, there's a rumor out there that they're only looking at English-speaking candidates, and then all of a sudden he does this in an interview. It's very, very like opportune. So it seems like it was on purpose for sure.
If it was, that makes me love him even more.
Right. But, you know, someone also to love, someone who is definitely one of us, Waka Flocka. Yeah, he was pressed by Zach Klein of WSB or ABC locally here. And, yeah, I mean, he was asked if... you know, he would have to give up his Grammy or, you know, MLS Cup for, you know, Atlanta United. And he kind of...
MLS Cup is his Grammy.
Yeah, exactly. He, without a, you know, at the drop of a dime, he was like, MLS Cup, you know... I think
he flew up to New York for the match. I mean, this dude, he's a 17 through and through. I mean, this guy loves the club, and it's awesome. He even dropped a football. I mean, I'm sorry, soccer. I've been in Europe a lot. I love the guy.
Yeah.
Fully, like, he's committed. He's in it. I mean, we've known that since the MLS All-Star game when he went in the booth. That was an entertaining experience for all. But this guy, he loves the 5 stripes. He loves Atlanta United, and it's awesome to see someone like that repping it, because it just gets more and more people interested when you have, you know, a public figure like that some people really wouldn't expect maybe to be into this culture of soccer that's really just enveloped Atlanta. I mean, it's awesome to see him there doing that. It just pushes the brand forward even more.
Right, and you know, of course, you know, not just Waka Flocka, you have 2 Chainz, you have Archie Eversole, you've got Migos making appearances, you've got T.I. making appearances, Wu-Tang. I mean, seriously, I think, you know, it's not just for the culture. We are really establishing a culture that
is unique, which is
very unique,
which is just awesome. I mean, you can't say anything else about it, but like, we have something pretty awesome and pretty special here, and winning an MLS Cup, I think, would just drive it on even more. Yeah,
I think cultures culminating together, it's beautiful to see. But and Something that was also really, really beautiful was that the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, they did a rendition of "We Are the A," the chant, and it was I kind of almost shed a tear. It was beautiful.
it was cool. I'm not gonna lie. You don't really expect that coming from a symphony.
Yeah.
It's not really the music of choice that I would expect, but it was definitely a pretty cool way to hear something that we hear every single time we go to the bins for a match.
Exactly, and they were pretty much wishing Atlanta United well for the second leg, and man, I think if anything gets you pumped up, that gets me pumped up. But yeah, I love it. But let's get into the other playoff matches that happened. Very interesting stuff.
Yes. Well, I think one thing that all of us had our eye on and that we were all very happy to see on Sunday was that the Columbus Crew managed a 1-0 home victory over New York Red Bulls. That tie is by no means anywhere close, because if there's any team that can come out and smash someone in the second leg, it is New York Red Bull. But Zach Steffen, he basically did what he did to us last season, so we're used to seeing that. Jossie Zardes took a goal very, very well, but also Columbus could have had more. I mean, it could have been a higher scoring game than what it was, but I think the key in that match is they prevented Red Bull from getting that away goal, which is vital. You also saw Real Salt Lake draw Sporting KC 1-1, and I think which is a very surprising result for many people around the league. Real Salt Lake coming off of that victory, that crazy victory that saw a very much Karate Kid goal over LAFC. Which I have to say, actually, before we move on, I made a few comments on Twitter after that game that I'm just going to go ahead and restate here, because LAFC fans made an absolute mockery of themselves and shamed themselves in so many ways in that game. Now, I know that we stamped out the chant that they were saying over and over again very early into last season, and I know that we had our issues with throwing things at certain points in time last season as well. But that being said, I really beg, and I don't think we're at this point anymore, but I just beg that regardless of what happens throughout the rest of the playoffs or in any game, that we just refrain from doing that, because it's stupid, it's trashy, it tarnishes our fan base, it tarnishes our team, it tarnishes our club, and we just don't want to have a reputation for just being dickheads. And right now, that's what LAFC look like, and I get that they're a first-year club, but that was the playoffs. And that was happening over and over and over again. Credit to Mark Geiger. Yeah, I just said that for stopping the match in the first half. But like, seriously, what the hell? I was so glad to see them lose, because they did not deserve to win when their fans were acting like absolute children. That being said, moving on, you also saw Portland get a 2-1 win over Seattle, which pretty good result in a very, very interesting playoff tie with the Cascadia Derby going on right there. There is no love lost between those two teams. So that is very, very spicy affairs. That being said, I think that Atlanta, or whoever comes out of the East, will have the advantage over whoever comes out of the West. Maybe not Sporting KC. They're a pretty good team. But we know whoever wins the East will be hosting MLS Cup. But right now, I'd say things are pretty damn interesting as far as the playoffs are concerned.
Yeah, and it's looking quite good. And, you know, that second leg is coming up for this Sunday. And we're all very looking intently at that the Columbus New York Red Bulls
I would absolutely take Columbus in that fixture. Mind you, that means facing Zach Steffen, and we know what he turns into in the playoffs. But I'd rather play than the New York Red Bulls, and I will take that every single time.
Yep, agreed on that. But next up, we're getting to our mailbag questions. You guys send in your questions on Instagram story, and please continue to do so. We may take your question in the future. We thank you so much for sending them. But first question comes from Chris Martinez 14. He asks 4-3-3 or 3-5-2.
Well, in my heart, I always want 4-3-3, and I will bang on about that. But at the same time, as much as I hate Jose Mourinho, I'm a fan of pragmatism. And I think in this case, when protecting a 1-0 lead, I will go with the 3-5-2 at home, especially if you need to defend at the end of the game. I think you can be a little bit smart about how you play this. City are going to have to come at us, so let's keep a few more people at the back and be smart and tight and not give anything away.
I'm not sure if they were asking in general or for this match.
For this match, I'm saying 3-5-2.
Yeah. But, you know, 4-3-3 I think works in very certain points as well as 3-5-2. I think to get the players that are most in form and against a lot of teams in the playoffs currently, I would say 3-5-2 works best in my eyes. Because, yeah, I mean, I think Barco may miss out in this sense, but I think, you know, for the attackers that I think fit and gel the best together, and then with either a 3 or 5-man back line. You have the players that can fit the best in that type of formation. So
that being said, in a 3-man back line on our pitch or against a team that's not playing on a middle school size pitch, 3 at the back is great unless Lorinowitz is playing at right center back. Even though he played great, I do not want to see him playing on a pitch of normal size because that's just not a good
That's
idea.
asking for it, I think.
That's really trying to tempt fate, and as much as I've given Tata credit, I will take it all back if I see that because that is stupid.
All right, next question comes from Luis Delgado 1. Would it be better to play offensively or defensively with the second leg match against New York?
I think this is a very, very good question and a very interesting question. Without copping out, I'm going to say a bit of both. I think that the impetus is going to be on NYCFC. They have to score a goal, which I think really plays into Atlanta United's hands. We're going to dig into this a bit more in our match preview, but I think Atlanta United would be very smart to play on the counter, let NYCFC step their lineup, play with a high line, and we can look for those long balls over the top to our outlets like Martinez, hopefully Tito if he's fit, to Almiron, because there's a lot more space to be had there, and I think we could really do some damage against them if we just play smart, let them play into our hands, and hit them on the counter.
Yeah. And I think they're going to come in trying to maybe counter what we did. And so whether they're going to, maybe press harder or they're maybe going to try to sit and counter us. I don't think they have that speed.
I don't think they have the option.
They can't afford to. And so, their options are a little bit more limited. But I think, we could sit back a little bit more. But I think it's a little bit of if we get that first goal. I mean,
yeah, if Atlanta can score and score early, so I think you might come out and press them hard and see if you can make a mistake. Yeah. But you have to be smart because you also can't give away an early goal because if you give away an early goal, then they can afford to sit in. So it's a game of chicken in a sense. Mm-hmm. But I think it'll be a very interesting one. But Atlanta United holds all the cards as far as I'm concerned. So. Mm-hmm. I'd say a little bit more defensive just to be safe because you have that option. Yeah.
Next question comes from James B7103. With all those numbers in between, we love your screen name. Who do you think will play in the conference final? Hold your horses, man.
Easy there, big guy. We still got 90 minutes to play, and football is a hell of a sport. Who knows who can play? Besides, I don't even know because you have Red Bull involved in the other match, and they can drop a 3 spot on anyone in a heartbeat. Yeah. That being said, you have Columbus and their demigod of a goalkeeper, so I have no idea. But also, we're not through yet. Easy. Settle. Ask me that question again on Sunday.
Yeah. Next question comes from Nick Lopez 16. How do you think Gressel played? Was he utilized properly? Yeah, I don't think he was definitely used in his most
best position.
Best position, yeah, is the best way to say it. I think because he's been the best as a right wing back, and he was moved a little bit more centrally. He was asked earlier by a reporter before the match, you thrive in wide spaces, and so how do you think you're gonna play in this match? Blah blah blah. He kind of gave it away a little bit. He was like, it's almost like whomever's out there is gonna have more time and space a little bit, but it's still gonna be a tight pitch. Yada yada yada. But I think. He doesn't again have that the right touch to be a central midfielder all the time, I think, and I don't think you were able to see him thrive in this match, but he was able to, I think, be that kind of defensively a big body.
He's a physical presence that when you're playing on a pitch that's that size and you're trying to prevent them from creating space. He helped clog the middle of the pitch, and it helped Atlanta to kind of bring an extra defender on an Escobar or Lorinowitz playing as that right-sided center back to really solidify and close things down and not give anything away.
He's got bounds of energy as well.
Absolutely. So was he used in his best position? Maybe not, but I think in this case that he was used and how Tata utilized him, I think it did the job that he was asked to do. So I can't really complain. And I think Tata making that call got it spot on because he needed that energy, he needed that physical presence in the midfield, and I think that's exactly what he got from Julian Gressel in this match.
Agreed. Next question, or last question, comes from Maido El Shami 101. Apologies if I mispronounced that. They ask, what impact do you think Almiron has? Will he make it for the second game?
I think you can see night and day at that impact that he had. In the first half, Atlanta United were a lot more up-tempo, really taking the game to NYCFC, pressing high at the pitch, and they could not contain him. He was running all over the place, drawing fouls. He was popping up on the right and the left and the middle, all over the place. I think he will be vital to the way that Atlanta United play this weekend. I think that taking him off was probably predetermined and precautionary because you don't want him to get hurt because, again, he was vital to the way Atlanta United played. And I think since he started this past match, I think that that was a great way of getting him that match fitness like we talked about in the preview, of letting him get a half in to get closer to that. I think with another week of training, staying healthy, I think you'll see him start and play most of that second leg game because he is a very important player and you can really see his value. And I also think he's, in a sense, he is moving on, but he's kind of making that final audition for who wants to sign him. And this is really his time to shine against the best teams in this league, where the spotlight's going to be on him. And I think he took that chance and took that opportunity and really put in a great performance in that first half.
Right, he definitely shown what he's capable of, not just in this match, but how much he means to the team. He really just pulls the strings. There's you can see the stark difference between the first half and the second half when he's not in, and it's just, there's such you were saying the up-tempo play, but I think it's also, one part of it is that Tata decided to sit a little bit more, but also we lost an outlet. We lost a person that can control the game and carry the ball forward. Yeah, just a lot of elements that he brings to us, and it's
he, like you said, whenever he picks up the ball, whether it's in our half, in midfield, he always looks to drive forward and run at the defense, and you don't always have that with the rest of the team. You don't get that with Joseph Martinez. He's more of he gets the ball up higher in the pitch, or he drops deep and plays it to somebody else. Nagby, you kind of get that from as well, but no one does it with the pace and the efficiency that Miguel Almiron does. I mean, he runs at people with pace, and defenders do not like that. They do not like a player running at them direct who's quick with their feet and can make them make a mistake, and that's what you got from Miguel Almiron. And he's absolutely crucial to the way this team plays. To have him back and hopefully fully fit for the second leg is just an absolute boon for Atlanta United.
Agreed. But that's it for the mailbag, and we'll move on into the match preview. And so 5 p.m. or thereabouts on Sunday.
Who knows with TV as far as we're involved.
Yeah, they say the broadcast is going to be 5, and then 5:23 is going to be kickoff. Okay, if it is, great. But it's going to be at the Benz, and I think we're in a very, very strong position, as we said before. And I think in terms of what we need to do to be able to get through, let the people know.
So again, for many people, this is their first experience with a two-legged tie scenario. Atlanta United won the first fixture 1-0 away from home. That puts them absolutely in the driver's seat. That means that Atlanta United will advance on any chance that if we win, we're through. If we draw, we're through because we're 1 goal ahead. NYCFC have to win, and for them to directly go through, they have to win by scoring more than 1 goal. If it finishes 1-0 to NYCFC, then we will see extra time. But that being said, with the impetus being on them, with them having to attack Atlanta United, which is such a contrary to what teams do, especially in the regular season, I think goals will be there. I think Atlanta United will have the chance to score a goal, which means City are going to have to score more than 1 if Atlanta United score.
Yeah, and so I think it's pretty cut and dry. I think
we win, we draw, we go.
Yeah, we need to get a result, and it's pretty clear as day, I think. So, but let's get into the injuries that we know so far on a Monday. But so Andrew Carlton and Brandon Vasquez are still iffy, if pretty much probably unavailable. I would hope Carlton maybe could build some fitness and maybe be selected on the bench for another creative person off the bench, but. I think it's still unknown. He got stamped on in practice, and so it is what it is for that. Chris McCann is out 3 weeks from last week, and so a lot of people have that same sentiment. He's been very out of form for probably at least the last month, and you have Bello, you have Garza, you have Jose Hernandez even that can definitely.
But right now, Garza looked phenomenal. I don't think we talked about him really enough earlier in the pod. He for being out for so long and coming on early in the first half against Toronto in a bad situation, and then playing your first game starting back since June. That was a hell of a performance from him. He looked really good. He was really crucial in a lot of the things that happened in that match. So having him back in time for the playoffs. It's absolutely key. I mean, and after that, you do still have a Bello behind him. So you have two great options at left back that really offer you more than what you were getting from McCann.
Right.
So,
and lots of energy and very good crosses. I mean,
not to mention an absolute rifle of a shot that got saved. I mean, that was,
Yeah,
I have not seen him hit something like that before. That's probably the cleanest he's hit a ball as far as shooting is concerned since he's been with Atlanta United.
Right. He got a little unlucky, and yeah, I mean, I would have loved a 2-0 win. Oh, that would have been, that would have put this tie almost
pretty much to bed.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, it's like in terms of Garza, like I feel like he looked so much better than he even did earlier in the season.
Yes, absolutely. He looked like Garza of last season.
Right, and I think it speaks so much to how much maybe his shoulder was bothering him early on in the season. Because yeah, I mean, he, you know, it was just a little shocking, some of his you know, his defense earlier, and in this match he was a lot more brave. He was going for headers. He was
putting himself about.
Yeah, he and then he was getting stamped on and getting right back up. It was, you know, it was good showing from Greg Garza. But I think a big worry, I think though, is the yellow card accumulation that's going to happen in the playoffs. And so, you know, Remedi, Joseph, and Tito all received yellow cards. Really, only person that I'm maybe really concerned about is Remedi, because yeah, he's
gonna pick up yellow cards.
Yeah, you're gonna pick up some fouls, and if you know that foul gets a little too hard there, then okay, yeah, you might get a yellow, and he'll have to be out for a match. And
he'll pick up a one-match ban. Yeah, so I guess that's something else we should kind of explain.
Yeah.
Is that in a knockout competition where you're playing two legs, is that you have something called yellow card accumulation, to where if you get 2 yellows over any point in time, it basically becomes a red, in that you get suspended for a match. So yeah, that can get very interesting. You know, I'm also worried about Joseph picking up a yellow, because I mean, he is a fiery player and he doesn't usually pick up bookings, but that's going to have to be in the back of his mind. He has to be smart about what he's doing. He can't take his shirt off in celebration, or maybe he does, depending on the situation.
Right.
I mean, it does get very interesting with players picking up yellows, because you don't want them missing, you know, those crucial ties or potentially a final because of accumulation, because they don't get wiped, which is really frustrating. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting thing to see. I also think that as far as injuries are concerned, you also have to worry a little bit about Tito, because he did not look really fit at all in that second half when he came on. It's rare to see a substitute subbed, but I thought it was the right decision. It took a little bit longer than I thought it should have, but he didn't really look all himself in that match, and you need a player like him either to start or to come off the bench at full fitness to give teams problems, which is why Atlanta United are so blessed with depth. But again, you need a player of his caliber to be fit, and if you really want to win the cup.
Yeah, I mean, he looked a little broken. He looked crocked, where, I mean, pretty much he wasn't running at his full speed. It just, something was off, and, you know, we'll find out what exactly it is later on in the week, I'm sure. But you know, hopefully it was just an aberration, and you know, we can expect him for at least to be picked in the squad on Sunday. But yeah, fingers crossed that nothing's really the matter and it's just an off day. But yeah, that gets us into our formation and what we predict. I mean, I think that it's got to be a 3-5-2, and
I agree with you on that. I think both of us just pray that it's just not Lorinowitz at right center back. I want to see Escobar at right center back. I thought he played well last game, but I think it suits him even more to play in that position. Put Lorinowitz in the middle of the park, because I think you can afford to do that, in the sense that you can be a little bit more adventurous, but also have that solid back four in a sense, with him dropping in as well, and be defensively solid with your wingbacks being Gressel and Garza bombing down and doing their best work there. And I think it really just comes down to if Tito's fit. If he's fit, I think we're both in agreement that he'd probably be a better starting option as a striker.
Right.
But if he's not fit, I think you probably see Barco take that spot, because he's been playing well in his cameo roles over the past month or so, where I thought he played well when he came out against City this past weekend.
Yeah, I think he looked very strong. He was you know, he was on the ball, and where to a degree where NYCFC couldn't really get him off of it. He was playing smart as well, playing into the corner, and pretty much waiting for them to foul him. And you know, that's kind of what you want when you're trying to kill off a match. And but I think, in a 3-5-2, if he's playing up as a striker next to Joseph, I'm a little worried that, because essentially he drops back into Miggy's areas and they pretty much take up the same spots on the pitch, and that starts to give me trepidation on if that's really going to work. And so I think Tito, coming in, if he's healthy, I think as that second striker, we look a lot more dangerous, and there's a lot more chemistry between Tito and Joseph when they're playing up top.
I think Tito's a lot more used to playing as a striker or as a center forward in that position where he's given that freedom, but he also knows his impetus is to get forward, as opposed to Barco, who I feel like his first instinct is to drop back, to collect the ball, and to then move forward from there. So, I mean, I think in that case, yeah, you definitely want a Tito with his instinct to get that run, make that diagonal run behind, make that deep run to where you play the ball over the top, because that's going to be the weakness for City in this game. Because they're going to have to attack Atlanta United. And we talked about it, before the playoffs started, about how in a two-legged competition, how I feel a lot more comfortable if Atlanta United are playing the second leg at home and they have an away goal, because it's going to force teams to play against Atlanta United, which we saw time and time again throughout the season did not happen. They just sit in the back, they defend, they play tight, they give nothing away. City do not have that luxury in this game. They can't do that at any point in time. They have to come out, attacking, they have to try to get that goal, because they know if they can get a goal and get it early, then they can afford to play smart and play defensive. But if Atlanta United can score, then all bets are off for City. They have to come out, they have to play, because they'd have to score 3. Yep. If Atlanta get 1, City have to score 3. I mean, because, well, I guess they can score 2, but yeah, they can score 2. Yeah, because 2-1,
right.
Whatever. Mass. But I don't see them scoring 2 and Atlanta only scoring 1. I mean,
yeah, and with that though, I mean, it's one of those where I think Tito and Miggy, if we have both of them as outlets, we don't wear both of them out if it was just one of them. And so if it was just Miggy and we were just pumping the ball long to him,
that could be bad for him in his hamstring.
Exactly. I think it's something that we don't want to risk exactly. Yeah. But we've shown that we're so deadly on the counter, and so if we have all 3 of the options up top, Almiron, Joseph, and Tito, then I think it makes it even more just
deadly for City. But yeah, I mean, like I said, sorry for misspeaking. Yeah, if we get 1, they have to score 2, but that means they have to keep attacking. They can't just sit off and defend even if they get a goal. And again, that plays into Atlanta United's hands. That's why they were so effective on the road this season, was teams opened up and played against them, right, which left the space for those fast, creative players to get space and make something happen. And I think that's what's going to end up happening in this match. I think that really it plays into the way that Atlanta United want to play. It's going to make the players that we have even better, because I don't think anyone else in the league can really match up when it comes to speed and creativity at speed in the league. I mean, no one else has the speed of a Tito Villalba, of a Joseph Martinez, of a Miguel Almiron. Mind you, Red Bull are really good, but not in that sense, not in a track meet style match where you're going to have that back and forth in that space. So I think this match plays into Atlanta United's strengths. I think that it's set up for them for the taking, and I think leading into prediction-wise, I think this is a match that Atlanta United are going to win. I say they win 2-1. I think City will get a goal, but I think Atlanta United are going to take their chances. It's going to be open. It's a much bigger pitch. If they play a high line like they did this past match, we're just going to have them. So I'm going for 2-1 to Atlanta United to advance onto the conference finals.
I love that. I'm not quite as bullish, but I think it's a 1-1 draw because, yeah, I mean, they're going to come out, they're going to try to score. But, you know, I think, again, though, at the Benz, it's not always like the rosiest of situations every single time. But I think, you know, with 1-1, we get the job done. I mean, and so I think if we can do that, we're on to the next round. So
yeah. It's going to be one hell of an atmosphere as well on Sunday. Exactly. I think it's going to be one of the loudest we've had, with so much on the line, with the boys in a great position already. So I'm looking forward to it. But I just think that this is really a great match for Atlanta United with the way we want to play, and I really just feel comfortable. I think either way, we think they're moving on. But yeah, I mean, that's what you get when you play great and secure a 1-0 result on the road. You feel really confident, and I believe, unless I heard wrong, teams that win on the road and keep clean sheets have not lost a second, or have not lost the tie when it comes to MLS in the playoffs in their history. So we'll see how that goes. I make Atlanta United favorites to continue that streak and to move on. And I guess we will find out after the match. We'll get to watch Red Bull and Columbus go at it. Fingers crossed for Columbus.
Yeah, indeed. But that gets us into the question of the day.
Yep, and the question of the day is kind of straightforward. With that first leg result being the way that it is, Was that the grittiest, or maybe say the ugliest win in Atlanta United's short history? For me, I think there's a couple other matches that come to mind, but with as much on the line as there was, I'm gonna go with yes, because they got amongst it. There was a hell of a lot of fouls. They were just absolutely determined and got a great win. So for me, yes, that was the grittiest win in Atlanta United history. But we're curious to see what you guys have to say. Get down in the comments below and let us know what you think.
So that's it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button, and share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.